Welcome to Bat Therapy, mental health through the lens of comics and film. Be a fly on the wall or a bat in the cave, listening in on a friendship built out of a love for talking Batman, comics, and the everyday struggle to achieve mental health and happiness.
We're your hosts, clinical psychologist Dr. Amelia Brown and educator and comic aficionado Keaton Hopkins. Don't forget to follow us on YouTube and social media and find our Patreon at patreon.com/battherapy.
This podcast is about providing education and understanding and is not a replacement for mental health treatment or support. If you're needing help, go to bat-therapy.com for resources. Let's talk about Super Bat.
Super Bat. All right. So first thing, this has been like an ongoing thing for a while, whether it's been called World's Finest, Superman, Batman, Batman, Superman. All three completely different sets of comics. This is from the Superman Batman run in 2000, and this particular runs from 2008. It's Superman Batman issues, Volume 1, issues 53 through 56. And I specifically remember reading this, sitting down. It was back when they had the couches at Barnes and Noble where you could actually just sit there all day and read.
Yeah, I
And
remember those days.
yeah, I just went in there because I was a broke college student and I just read comics instead of buying them. Yeah. And so I remember reading that. And I also just have a vivid memory of Bruce Wayne having an incredibly perfectly oval shaped head. And it just threw me off in it.
This is not my favorite in terms of like the illustration per se. I feel like it improved the first installment. I think there were a few where I was like, but
It was just how Bruce looked. Just when he was Batman, it looked fine. But when he was Bruce, I'm like, why does he look like that? Like that, no way that guy's a billionaire. Not with that hair. Like
I mean, he did inherit it, you know?
Yeah.
So this storyline I was personally excited for. I don't think I read it until a year or two ago because I like the story. I like the storylines that are like alternate realities, or you like trade up you trade out people's like different skill sets or their superpowers, or I just like the ones like that. Plus I like the ones that hone in on like the personalities and the people. So
yeah, for sure.
Even though it's only 4 installments, it's got a lot of goodies. So essentially, Silver Banshee, who I know nothing about other than she like yells loudly at people, but Silver Banshee comes in, she's trying to find a brooch or whatever that can do some magical thing, and Batman accidentally ends up taking on Superman's powers, and it just like looks at this across the installments, which I really love.
Okay, so first question for you. You're a professional psychologist. What does it take to get something renamed in the psychology world? Because after this series, it's a Batman complex. It's not a Superman complex. Like at this point, we can no longer sit here and falsely say that anyone has a Superman complex when it is so much more a Batman complex.
It really does
every
fit
single
more
time.
Like it is more of a Batman complex, yeah.
Oh my God, good Lord.
I think there has to be that human obsession piece, because you have to be, because the complex is about being obsessed because you aren't Superman. So I think the complex is more like you're trying to be like Superman, but because you're not. So yes, I hear you that Batman is the epitome of it for sure. Yeah, one of the things that I don't know how much I love about this. So there's this really interesting thing you see happen with Batman, which is that he gets Superman's powers, and he, of course, is using them to fight crime and whatnot. And well, what's interesting is like he just can't turn it off. He can't turn off his obsessive nature. And so he mentally and even physically, to a certain extent, degrades because he's literally chasing the dark when Superman needs sunlight to charge up and is trying to eliminate crime altogether. And I love this because so the storyline kind of says, okay, well, the brooch, it gives you exactly what you want, but it's at a cost. And so they say within the story that the cost for him was he lost his like brilliant Batman calculating mind.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I think it just allowed his obsessive nature to take over.
Yeah.
And this is what would happen if Batman had Superman's powers. He would not be able to chill.
He wouldn't be able to chill. He's like, wherever there's crime, he's like, I can take this worldwide, baby. We're locked in. I love any of the stories where Batman is not the most sane person in the room. Like whenever he is the one where people are like, we should be worried. Those are some of the most fun Batman
I
stories because
agree.
anytime he puts the calculator down,
Yeah.
it's like, oh God.
That's when things get scary.
That's when things get very scary because this is the thing. This is the thing that I always think about when it comes to Batman having superpowers. Batman without superpowers is one of the greatest hand-to-hand fighters on Earth.
And strategists.
Right. Strategists. Yeah. You give that person superpowers, it's on another level. Like, honestly, the way that I think about Batman, I put him in the same category with with Ozymandias from Watchmen. Right? If Ozymandias was a good guy, that's how calculated Batman is. Right. And so in this story, it was very interesting because the way that they talked about it, it was from, I won't say a jealousy perspective, but it was from is the grass greener on the other side perspective. Because they do this thing where Superman, what he's always wanted is to just be a regular human. And what Batman has always wanted is
to be able to save everyone.
To be able to save everyone. And they're like, okay, your wish is my command. Like that was almost how it was. Like if this had been said at Christmas time, it could have pulled like a full It's a Wonderful Life reference, I think. Like it was very interesting how they did it. And the thing is, I think they nailed how it would actually go down.
I think so too.
I really think they nailed how it would actually go down, especially in that sense of suddenly Bruce Wayne has no reason to stop. He doesn't have the energy of only a regular human.
He doesn't have
the strength of only a regular human. He doesn't have to go put gas in the Batmobile. He doesn't have to sleep. He doesn't have to eat, baby. I don't know. But yeah, it's one of those things. The funniest thing to me though, and I called this the first time I read it, is I was like, Batman works at night. Superman gets his powers from the sun. He's gonna run out of energy.
And so here's the interesting thing is that you think, oh my God, you give him Superman powers and he will be unstoppable. But it knocks his abilities and his weaknesses off balance. And so what happens is the obsessive nature has nothing to reel it in because, like you said, he doesn't have these needs that are forcing him to slow down, take time. And his tactical nature takes a huge hit.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even take that long. And once again, I actually don't love the part where they're like, oh, well, it took away his, no. I don't think the magic had to necessarily do anything. I think that that's a very realistic response that would happen if all of a sudden you took the training wheels off essentially for him. It knocks everything else off balance. And I think it is this really cool way of highlighting how these limitations that he had, or seeming limitations, actually fed into him being so effective in other ways. And so you all of a sudden shift what's going on
Mm-hmm.
And these things that you think of as like, this is who Batman is, he struggles with. I mean, he loved the part where Nightwing comes and fights him. And he's like, what kind of idiot are you trying to fight me as Superman? He's like, well, figured I'd get a punch in or two because you've been avoiding the sun. And then after all of that fight, he actually realizes like, it's bothering me a little bit that I didn't realize that. I feel like I should have realized that. And it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
Batman usually would realize
Yeah, man.
that.
You're slipping. You're
And
slipping.
it's, yeah, that's slipping in certain ways because he's so overly reliant on these powers so quickly and isn't having to slow down. So that lack of weakness in one area is actually creating weaknesses in another.
It kind of reminded me of when I would play a video game with and without cheat codes. And you're going through a video game without cheat codes, and you're like, okay, I got to make sure that I preserve my life. I got to get every attack perfectly right. I have to do this in this order and all of that, right? You go through it the next time with an invincibility cheat, you're like, who cares? I can just run all over the place. Nothing's going to hurt me. I can't die. It's like, it is what it is, right? And suddenly the strategy part goes out the window. It's
I
just
love
full
this
blown
comparison. That's a really good one.
yeah, it's just full blown Leroy Jenkins out there. Like, because you don't even have to plan for it. You don't, it's just, but it's also very chaotic. There's no control here because there's seemingly nothing to lose, which is what Bruce has always wanted, because his whole thing is that he lost his parents.
Yeah.
Right? That's his whole thing. And he's like, the way and it's funny because even he thinks to himself, this might just be temporary, but while it is, I'm going to set everything right. Superman has this mantra of, I'll help as many people as I can, but I know I can't help everybody. And I feel like that always comes out whenever it's a story between him and Batman.
Yeah.
Whenever it's a story between him and Batman, it's like, oh, you think he needs to save people? Well, guess what? And my favorite, I love how this comic started out too, because there's this whole conversation about how whenever Bruce has to go to Metropolis and Clark's out of town, they like just kind of swap places for the
they're
night.
both so uncomfortable with the swap. I
love that Gotham is so terrible that Superman himself is just like,
I don't know how he does it.
I don't know how he does it. Like when I was laughing so hard. This is Superman in Gotham City, and he's just like, this is impossible.
And then, like, this is a total aside, but I love how Bruce, like, Batman's like, everything in Metropolis is too bright and shiny. It's like it's hard for me to like use my battery. It won't stick to anything. It's too nice and shiny. Yeah, I love that. I love that piece too, where it goes back and forth and it talks about them switching and how they feel about it. It's a really great intro to this comic.
It also just sheds a huge light on just how rough Gotham is. That there's that line in there where Superman's like, yeah, whenever I come to Gotham, I always appreciate Metropolis a lot more. I was just like, wow, Gotham is just built different. Like whoever lives here is just you gotta be able to fight. It's full-time Waffle House, full-time. And I laughed so hard at the very beginning of that when it's just Superman just like, I don't think this city can be safe. I can try. I'm gonna do my best, but this is wild. This is
and
wild.
and it's interesting too, because as it goes, you actually see this bitterness that Bruce feels toward Clark in terms of who they are as people beneath the masks, where I don't think he sees it as like, hey, you're not using your powers in the way that you should. But I do think that Bruce feels like Clark could do more. And it's got to be so hard when like he has it. And it's like, I can finally do more with this. And so like you see this tension that comes out with him around it, which once again, there's obsessiveness coming out, and like I mean, he's not sleeping, and maybe he doesn't need to sleep, but also Clark does rest, and he's not resting. So there's probably biologically he's probably like struggling because he's not resting in some
Hmm.
fashion. He might not need to sleep and eat like a human, but he's still a being. So, and maybe the sun is that sustenance, and he's obviously not getting enough of that. But yeah, you just see this resentment increasing and rising, and even spread to like the Justice League when they're anyone who's trying to slow him down or stop him. It's like, why aren't you all doing this too?
It kind of, yeah, whenever Batman is around Superman, it's one of those things where I know Batman love I know like Bruce loves Clark, and I know that like they respect each other. But whenever Superman complains, it's almost like Batman's almost like when you're listening to a millionaire complain about how rough everything is, and
Yeah.
you're just like, the
Which,
hell
I
are you
mean,
talking
granted,
about?
like, he is a millionaire, so
Right,
there are
right,
certain
yeah,
things he
but
doesn't
it's
understand. He is
like
privileged.
that's the
Yeah.
closest he
Well,
ever.
you know what it's
Superman
reminding
is
me.
the closest
Well,
Batman will ever feel to being unprivileged.
yeah. It also reminds me too, so, I've worked with a lot of veterans and stuff. So, like, when you've been through like combat or other things, and then people will talk about coming back, and then people are like all up in arms and complaining about like their job or things that matter to us, but also, when there's that perspective shift. And so, yeah, I could totally see. Yeah, exactly. I think Bruce is just kind of like, yeah, okay, and feels that Clark's problems are fairly small. And at the end of the day, I think Bruce believes that if he had anyone else's powers, he'd use them better. I think he believes that about probably most, if not all of the superheroes he works with. And the interesting thing about this story is, on the one hand, I love me some Bruce Wayne, and I do believe he could do a lot of interesting stuff if he had those powers. And yet, once again, there's something about the fact that he doesn't have powers that is a part
Yeah,
of what makes him, ironically, a superhero. And so I just loved how this story toyed with that and actually said, would he be more effective? And I guess in some ways, maybe technically so, but like, oh, at the end of the story, when it's like Clark was like, "We almost lost you," and that was the terrible thing that the brooch brought on, and then like, Batman is all silent and everything, but they literally everyone was like, "Hey, you are doing all this stuff, and it's literally sacrificing you, and we don't want to lose you." He can't understand that equation of giving himself enough value to put himself in front of the mission.
yeah, and it's felt for Bruce in this too, just because he's been fighting a good fight. No powers. They even have a whole thing about how Alfred is the closest thing he has to a dad,
Mm.
a doctor, a friend. Bruce is in the trenches, right? Like he is just, all he knows is the fighting. Suddenly to be given seemingly unlimited power for the first time ever against all these criminals that keep coming back. And finally, he has the strength to make them stay down. I think that would be hard for anyone. I think that would be hard for anyone. It's kind of like I got bullied as a kid. I absolutely got bullied as a kid. If I woke up one day as a kid and suddenly I had super strength or just like abilities that would completely crash that whole situation, I'd have a hard time pulling my punches. I absolutely
Like
would.
that kid from
Right?
Deadpool, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
From Deadpool too. Right. Yeah. Very good. Yeah. Yeah. I would have a hard time pulling my punches. And the way that Bruce like goes through Gotham and what Gotham does to him, it's almost essentially like, all right, you know what? Gotham, you can't bully me anymore. I'm going to put you down. I'm going to handle this. Like, and I think they showed it perfectly when he goes across the world and fights Bane
Yeah. I forgot
and
about that.
absolutely one-sided it is. And it was perfect that it was Bane, because Bane is the one that has legitimately wrecked Batman. Like, it was not no contest, like, you lost and it was bad. And this guy is physically stronger than you, and at times just as smart as you. And for the first time here, you're untouchable to him. You're untouchable to him. And at that point, that's when I was just like, okay, yeah, he's really locked in. And I don't think he's gonna be able to turn it off, because now when you can suddenly take out the hardest villain to take out, everything else seems easier. And so after that, I feel like he doubled down even more on, I'm going to take out all the crime. If I can take him out that easily, I'll see you in the morning. I'll be back. I'll be back. I'll be right back. Robin, you stay home. Your motorcycle can't keep up
Felt
with
so
all
bad
this.
for Robin.
Yeah,
He
poor
just kept
Tim.
getting left behind.
Poor Tim.
Yeah, it would have been interesting to see what would have happened over time, because I actually think it was leading him toward one of those Superman storylines where Superman essentially becomes like a fascist leader of the world.
Yeah,
I feel like it was
it
headed
was
that
getting there.
direction.
It was
Yeah,
getting
where
there. Oh, yeah.
it wasn't there, obviously,
Mm-mm.
but once he got the initial layers of crime, he'd go to with his obsession, he'd go the
Mhm.
next layers and the next layers and the next
Yeah.
layers. And I could definitely see him getting to a point where he's just like controlling everything and everyone to try and maintain that level of safety, especially once again, if he's not actually caring for himself in a way where he can maintain a lot of the human parts of him. That's where all his friends were coming in. They were like, "You're breaking down. You're wearing at the edges, and we're really worried where this is going." He can't see it. He can't. He's just focused on his target, and I think that target would just keep going and going and going and going.
Yeah. I had a question for you with Superman in this comic, because they touched on the fact that he just wants to be human.
Mm,
And what I couldn't figure out is exactly what that meant, because he
mm.
clearly loves having his powers. And I think he likes being Superman. I couldn't figure out quite what it was they meant when they said he just wants to be human. Like, were they saying he wants to quit being Superman? He wants a regular life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because Superman is one of those outliers where, as long as Kryptonite isn't in the picture, he's fine. Like, he has the superpowers, but he's also seemingly human enough. Like, as
Well,
far as aliens from other planets go, he fits in just fine, right?
so
Like,
I think
he's
the interesting thing for him is I think it's going in the opposite direction, right? So his wish is to turn it off. His wish is to be, yeah, I think it has to do with the normal life. And I mean, Lois hits on it at one point where she's like, "Hey, it's weird, but kind of nice that we can actually get through a whole date together. We can do X, Y, and Z." There are all these interruptions, and he even talks at one point about how hard it is to tune things out, because he's concerned about that initially for Bruce. Because I mean, you hear everything, you sense everything. So my take on it was the wish for, yeah, that normal life without the complications of Superman. And then with him, what it's detrimental for him, he almost dies, because you see that just because you don't have your powers doesn't mean that you change the fact that you're a superhero. And so he still has, it's highlighting that, like, okay, even if you could be, regular Joe Schmo, it's built into you at this point. Who knows what would have happened if you never had superpowers, but it's built into the chemistry of who he is, his traits and personality, to help, to save, to put others first. And so for him, it's like harmful to him in like the opposite direction, where like Bruce Wayne is just like on, 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 on. versus he's trying to turn it off, and it's like, well, it's not that easy. It's ingrained in you. It's not just your powers. And then without the powers, well, he's not trained like Batman, so it doesn't go so well
Yeah.
for him, and he
And
gets
he's
shot
like,
pretty quick.
yeah,
Pretty quick.
yeah, because all those years hanging out with Batman,
He
and
probably
just
thought they just bounce off of humans too.
and he's like, I'm gonna walk down this dark alley, and I'm like, have you listened to nothing Bruce has said over the years? Lois, you and me, let's walk down that dark alley right there.
Okay, but
Why?
were they in
No
Metropolis
reason.
at that time? Because, like, to be fair, Metropolis isn't Gotham.
A dark alley is a dark alley.
Yeah.
I feel like dark alleys are shady in every city, right? Like it's just
Yeah.
But it was really interesting just seeing that, because all of a sudden he realized, oh, that's not all it's cracked up. This is not all it's cracked up to be. Meanwhile, Bruce is just like, hell yeah. Like he's
He's like, this is all it's cracked up
this
to be.
is
Let's
every
go.
bit as cracked up to be as I always thought it was.
Let's
I'm never
do
gonna
this.
stop. Don't need to sleep. Don't even need my child soldiers anymore.
Get
I
out of
got
here,
it.
Clark. You were willing to give it up, so get out of my way.
Yeah, get out of here. Get out of here. Can't stop, won't stop. Like it's just locked in. And yeah, I absolutely love the way this comic went, because essentially in order to even get the powers back, because Bruce does get to that point where he's like, I'm not giving this up.
Yeah.
I'm too good at it. I'm too awesome. But it does get to that point where Clark has to become a tactician and and put the right things in front of Bruce to kind of get him to freeze up a little bit and like realize what's going on. And so I really loved how they did it, because at the end of it, both of them appreciated each other much more.
I think they understood each other better and also themselves better too, because Superman had the same realization, I think, where there needs to be almost like this reluctance to fully embrace his powers all of the time and have this desire and drive for humanity in order for everything to stay balanced. Just like with Bruce, you think powers just like solve the one thing that's lacking for him, and it actually messes up the entire equation. Same thing over here. So when it comes to Clark and Superman, they're more woven together than I think he a lot of times admits. Like a lot of times we'll joke like, oh, he's actually Clark Kent, in terms of like, is it the math? Is it the superhero or the alternate, and we'll say, oh yeah, and he's Batman more than he is Bruce Wayne. But I think that they realized more how integrated those parts of them are and could better understand each other. I definitely agree with you that I think it bonded them really well, and they could understand each other's struggles a bit more. And then also just, have that better sense of self.
And I do love that it was one of those things where Bruce comes out of it and he's like, yeah, I understand why I had to be stopped. But they also make it, there's a point of him saying, still would be nice to have those powers though. Like he doesn't.
That's right.
Yeah, he's like, still would be nice, because he like, that had to be just such a big deal, just all of a sudden being able to take on all of it. And for years and years and years, you've had this life gauge that depletes every night because you just don't have the energy for it. And you spend so much time planning that you didn't get a chance to do everything you wanted, because you're like, I got to go in here and figure out how to get the lights out to take out that guy with that gun and take out this person with the rocket launcher and then get to the Penguin in his vest. And all of that planning.
And also part of that planning is he has to integrate other people. He has to create connections. He has to build enough trust with people so that they can help him, because he can't do it all on his own. And then you see how quickly he drops people when he doesn't have to use them.
Not just drops them, but hurts them.
Yeah. They got in his way?
Yeah. Yeah, because he hurt Selena. He hurt he hurt Dick Grayson. Like he actually caused physical harm
Wonder
to,
Woman is like, I'm
yeah,
shooting you back to Earth.
yeah, like he caused physical harm
Yeah.
to people because he was just refusing to stop. So I do love that this story seemingly says, hey, it's a good thing Batman doesn't have
Mm-hmm.
superpowers because mentally he needs to be limited physically.
Yeah.
Not mentally, but physically,
Yeah.
he needs to be limited.
And those limitations help build his mental prowess, help build his tactical abilities, help, and it also it forces him to connect with other people
Yeah.
and to be more human. It keeps him grounded.
Yeah.
And Superman doesn't, the powers, he's grounded without them because of those hesitations, and he has this drive and desire, and so for him the powers don't take away those things like they
Right.
do for Bruce.
Yeah. Cause I mean, it kind of reminds me of Superman's monologue in this last new movie that comes on when he's talking to Lex and he's like, being human, everything about my humanity is what makes me great. Right. And Batman, I feel like, doesn't quite agree with that. He's like, no, nope. If I was bulletproof, kicking ass and taking names all day, every day, even more so than I already do. Don't even need the Batmobile. Don't even need the Batwing. I'm just out here killing it. It was, and so it was really cool. And I'm honestly impressed that they told such a good story in only 4 issues.
Right?
I'll be honest. I was impressed with that. I will just say, like, kudos to that team because they got so much great dialogue in there. They got so much exposition in there, and then they wrapped it so well. And it was only 4 issues. Like, I was surprised that a run like this wasn't
Yep.
6 to 12,
So
honestly.
usually for me, because hello, I self-selected into psychology. I really like those stories that hit on character development and just like hit on all of these nuances that we've been talking about. And yeah, very rarely am I really pulled into a comic book story that is
Yeah.
this short. I agree with
Yeah.
you. It's incredibly impressive. I mean, obviously you're working with illustrations as well as the dialogue, which in some ways I think can help you get to things quicker than if you're purely, say, using words.
Mm-hmm.
Or, just using words or just using visuals, like, they're pulling some stuff together. But I agree. I think it's very impressive what they managed to do in just four installments. And yeah, most of the storylines that I like are usually over 10 because it just takes that much to give you the depth. And would I like take this and like would I love it if they just like zoomed in and made it a longer series? Of course. But
Yeah.
I did not feel like I was missing anything from the story, even though it was so
Yeah.
short.
Because I would have definitely loved like a page by page. Because I do love when Commissioner Gordon comes in, he's like, so all the jails are full. That's new.
So I love that snapshot. And actually, I think some of the power of this series too is that they don't go into everything in detail. They just have these like really poignant pieces where like he's like, so I don't remember the exact stuff, but he's like essentially like, so what's been going on with you, Batman? Like anything new? And he's like, nah. And he's just like floating in the air.
Floating. He's like floating next to the bat signal. Like, nope, nothing new, nothing to see here.
Anything you want to tell me? Nah.
That's also got to be terrifying as a criminal in Gotham that you're just like, so Batman beat my ass worse tonight, and I'm not. And I think like something weird is going on because this one was extra bad, which he was still definitely pulling his punches if he had Superman's powers.
But with Superman's powers, you know what he was doing, right? He was using that X-ray vision so that he could beat them as far as he could
Oh yeah,
and know
he's like,
exactly
okay,
when to
I can
stop.
go.
You know that he got nasty with that and
Oh yeah,
like leaning toward evil, like
yeah. It
leaning
was
toward like, ooh, that's villain behavior. But
because a tacticians rarely have unlimited power.
yeah.
You give a tactician unlimited power, this is like this
Yeah.
is next level, right?
Plus,
It's
keep in
like when we
mind, a lot of his piece too was like exhibition. And he had to use the exhibition to like make himself more than a man. Now he is more than a man. So he's at a point where people probably realize, like, oh, he's human and da da da, he has his limits. And now all of a sudden he can like become the myth again in a
yeah,
whole new way.
yeah,
Oh,
it's
buddy.
pretty yeah, it's a really good story. I absolutely I loved this one.
Thanks for nerding out with us. I'm clinical psychologist Dr. Amelia Brown.
And I'm educator and comic aficionado Keaton Hopkins. Check out my TV and movie reviews on YouTube at Team JVS. Check out our website at bat-therapy.com, our Bat Therapy YouTube channel, and follow us on social media. And don't forget our Patreon page at patreon.com/battherapy. See you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.